we're 6 down and staring down the barrel.
It was not a great watch from England's point of view. I didn't expect us to lose 6 wickets, I have to be honest. I think that batter error has contributed to that yet again.
It's so frustrating as a bowling unit when you can't blow away that tail.
I look at the bowlers and I think they look undercooked. I think they're missing, it's that match sharpness in the brain. It feels like England are playing at about 10-20% of their potential.
And it's the hope that's probably hurting the most. This felt like this was going to be the time it's going to be different.
I think if you line the 11s up, it feels like England have got a slightly stronger 11.
Let's just touch on the England batting.
78 miles an hour, keeper up, half volleys really, that got chipped back to the bowler, 2 caught on bowls, and it's like catching practice. It was honestly so deflating.
England fans, look away. It's been a really tough day for the boys down at the Gabba. Australia well on top in this test match. England finished the day 134 for 6, still 43 runs behind. Broady had a bit of a tough watch here in England. It felt a bit same old at the Gabba. How has it been out there?
Yeah, very difficult day for England, but a brilliant day for Australia. I think my initial thoughts are, I think Australia showed so much more experience and quality with all passages of play with the pink ball. I think Mitchell Starc needs a lot of credit for how he's gone about all his business in this series so far, but how he went about it with the bat. He got 77 off something like 140, 150 balls and was just batting time to give himself the best chance with a brand new pink ball under lights. And once he was doing that, it just felt quite predictable that what was going to happen, you know. So England don't play any pink ball cricket really. Australia play 1 a year, maybe 2 a year. So they just showed a lot more nous about the pink ball game. England again coming off an absolutely shocking bowling display yesterday, lacked a little bit of bite, a little bit of consistency. Ben Stokes actually started really, really well. Bowled 4 overs with the old ball, got Michael Neeson nicked off behind and just held length. It showed the sort of quality he has. And if I wish I could change one thing in the day, because it was so early, I'd have given him 2 overs with a brand new ball, because he's our only swing bowler. He was the only bloke who could sort of put it on length maybe around 5 times and over, and give him the chance to swing that new ball for 2 or 3. And then if he'd have got Starc, then you're into the game. But he turned to Jofra Archer and Gus Atkinson, and nothing really happened. And credit to Starc, but Boland's gone and got his highest test score, blocking balls left, right and centre, and it just looked like we could make nothing happen. We weren't creative with the fields. It was pretty unrewarding watching, to be honest. It was just you're bowling at lower order players, and the lower order players are making it look so easy, even with a brand new ball. But as the game went on and the twilight started arriving, you just thought, batting's not gonna be this easy later on. I didn't expect us to lose 6 wickets, I have to be honest. I think that batter error has contributed to that yet again. But Australia, I would like to focus more on the brilliance of Australia with the pink ball of what they've produced, certainly what Mitchell Starc has managed to sort of develop, and Scott Boland later in the day with the ball, than the sort of, I don't know what the right word is to describe England's performance, but it was not a great watch from England's point of view.
Yeah, I was just going to mention Australia's resilience, experience, and we spoke after the Perth game about just being good and not having to be great, but being good. And I think Australia have been good and very good for most of the game. They'll still look back at periods where they let themselves down, at the end of this game, whenever that is, and say, one of us in the top 4, top 5 has got to go on and get 100. But from 1 to 11, everyone's got into double figures and contributed. I just wrote down Michael Neeson faced 41 balls, Starc 141 balls, Boland 72 and Doggett 21 as well. And it's so frustrating as a bowling unit when you can't blow away that tail. England put on a few, frustrating runs for Australia with Joe Root accompanied by Jofra Archer, but this was a bit different for Australia. They took time doing it and kept England in the field. And as a batting unit, the more you're out there in that hot sun in Brisbane, and all these things contribute to making mistakes later on in the day and being tired in the middle. And yeah, I thought Stark's experience to sort of really drag that out, Boland just to show character and hang in there with him. And it was becoming a bit ominous, wasn't it, that they're going to get in a position here where they're going to take that new ball. England have fielded for nearly 2 sessions, and it's just going to be difficult for the batters. You mentioned you can always bat better, absolutely, but there's that sort of extra things that Test cricket throws at you, and obviously technical and tactical, but the mental strength and the tiredness that creates batter error late in the day is probably something that's contributed to losing 6 wickets tonight. It felt like Brook and Root needed to be there at the end for me, sort of maximum 3 down. But obviously we're 6 down and staring down the barrel.
Yeah, I feel like my emotions right now probably will connect with a lot of England fans in England. It's that you look at the Australian team and it isn't one of the great sides. They've gone in with a bowling attack without Cummins, without Hazelwood, without Lyon. There's no Khawaja. So allowing Stark to take the wickets he has is frustrating because he is the major threat. And it feels like England are playing at about 10, 20% of their potential. And that's hard to take because we come here with so much hope of the quality of player we have and what we've seen over the last sort of 18 months and how England have been building towards this for 18 months. And there's been a lot of talk about the preparation. There's been a lot of talk about what you do in between games. But, I don't I don't particularly mind what players do as long as you're ready to go in your particular way. And I look at the bowlers and I think they look undercooked. I think they're missing, it's that match sharpness in the brain that you can bowl 6 balls in the area that you want to bowl them in, and the bowlers are bowling 3, and then the 3 others are poor deliveries, and that's a match fitness, a match sharpness. That doesn't mean they haven't bowled enough in the nets or anything. It's just that feeling of being out in a game and the pressure cooker of being able to deliver. You don't bowl that many bad deliveries if that's July in England, when you've been playing and you're used to churning the overs in, and you're sort of 3-4 tests into a series and you're good to go. I've got a feeling at Adelaide, England will bowl far better because they've had a few more overs in the tank. So it looks like the bowlers are a bit short of a gallop, and it looks like the batters are trying to find their feet as well. So I don't know what England could have done differently in the preparations. Ultimately, there was an ODI tour to New Zealand that you were on prior to the tour, and then there were Sheffield Shield games that all the Aussie players played and got into it, so you weren't going to get a high quality opposition to play in Australia. So I don't know what they could have done differently, and knowing Rob Key and Baz like I do, they'd have looked into all the options. But England look like they're not sort of match sharp, match it, like the intensity of a match, and you lose the moments in the game, because I think if you line the 11s up, England have got feels like England have got a slightly stronger 11. Yes, Australia at home. Yes, the numbers stack up against you when you tour, because England have won here in 2010-11 and previously 86-87. Australia's last win in England was 2001. So winning away from home is increasingly difficult in international cricket. But we had a lot of hope coming here because we looked at our team and went, there's a chance they could do something special, but I can't look at any of those players and say they're playing to anywhere near their full potential. And what are the reasons for that? I don't know, but that is the reason that we'll be going 2-0 down tomorrow.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest frustration for all of us watching. We know the efforts the team has been putting in, and I think, as you mentioned, it's the hope that's probably hurting the most. This felt like this was going to be the time it's going to be different. The team has built something we all know is fantastic over the last few years to really go and take on what is the toughest challenge for England Test cricketers and win in Australia. And we, did lots of these podcasts before there was so much talk to say this time really does feel like it's going to be different because we have the tools here to beat Australia in Australia. So I understand that's why we've had lots of fan messages, which, none of which we really want to read out. I understand the sense of frustration that the fans are getting, and you want to see your team compete and perform at their best. And the other thing you want to be is, if you're not going to win, you want to be tough to beat, isn't it? I think that's the thing that all sides need to be. And we mentioned about just playing good cricket for longer periods of time and just taking the game closer and being harder to beat. And I think there's a few opportunities that have been missed in this game, and in the first test, where we thought, that there's a chance there for us, and you didn't have to be great in those moments, just had to be good. Look at those drop catches.
Can I also mention, sorry Jose to interrupt you there, can I just mention one thing on the bowling group as well that has just been playing on my mind throughout the last couple of days. Chris Wokes retires in the summer, Jimmy Anderson retires the summer before. I feel like this group going out at the Gabba, so they've been used to having a Wokes in there, being able to sort of calm things down, know how the theatre of Test cricket works, know how the discussions, communications can help change the flow of the game. So the three seamers in this attack and the spinner Will Jack, so you got Joffrey's relatively inexperienced in Test level, Gus Atkinson's relatively experienced, and Brydon Carse inexperienced, and they don't strike me as real tacticians of the game, real thinkers of the craft of how they can go about manoeuvring different things in the day's play or changing the rhythm of the game. But when I'm watching, they're not communicating, so that they're not getting together and sharing ideas of what they could do better, and where they could change the game, where they could move the game. So then it looks to Stokes, and Stokes has got to make all the decisions along with all the other captaincy decisions, and he's bowling, he's pouring with sweat, he's cramping, and he looks like he's taking so much on, because it's the first time he's captained without an experienced bowler. Even at Perth, he had Woody, 36 years old, played quite a bit of Test match cricket, speaks about the game well. So it's the first time he's captained a bowling group without, I don't really like this sort of leader or senior bowler, all that sort of thing, but without someone in the bowling attack who can just suggest little things, little nuggets in the game that can help Stokesy. So it just struck me today that there were times, or a lot of times, where Archer might be at mid-on, Atkinson deep cover, Carse bowling, and they wouldn't say a word. And that's not digging them out or slagging them, but that's Test cricket. You've got to work together. It's a partnership. You're a group. You're a bowling cartel that has got to get 10 wickets to get off that field. And it can't be one individual just doing that. It's a collective. And it didn't strike me that they were really on it together as a tight-knit group, sharing information. I might be wrong, and I hope I am wrong, but that's visually what it looks like from the side, and that's a problem, because that just heaps it all on Stokesy, and he's already got a lot going on.
Yeah, I think you make a quite valid point there. I think quite an interesting point, something I hadn't really considered much myself, but you talk about that experience.
That's not necessarily me saying, oh, Anderson should be here, Woke should be here. It might be just one of those things that happens. You can't do anything about it. But it just struck me today that maybe it's the first time I've watched Test cricket in 2 years and gone, oh, there's no one really helping Stokesy with the bowlers here. Maybe you can't do anything about that, but it felt obvious to me.
Yeah, no, it's a fair point, and you've seen a lot of cricket, Broady, so I'm sure you'll view from the commentary box as well. So just tell us a bit about how they'll be feeling as a team, what that dressing room will be like. We spoke about how they'd recover, after a tough day and get to Stokesy's room and, get some food and massage, and that was more of the physical stuff. But today's been more of what felt like a bit of a grind mentally, and the dressing room can be a bit of a tough place after a day like today.
Be quiet, won't it, Jose? Especially when the bowlers have not been able to get any back-to-back wickets. The England bowlers, every Australian batter got to double figures, even the extras. They got 500 on a pitch that's not a 500 pitch, and then you lose 6 wickets for 130, and suddenly the batters are going, well, it's keeping low, it's nipping around, and the bowlers are going, well, I didn't move it off the straight, and you start questioning yourself, and you're going to feel so deflated in this period right now. It's always a big sign, I think. You've had a bad day as a team. I'll give you 3 guesses who you think did the press tonight. Stood on the outfield right now having a chat to Aggers and all the crew. Go on, 3 guesses.
My guess would be that Marcus Trescothick's got a tap on the shoulder and said, "You're up tonight"?
10 points for Jose Boutlier. Yeah. The assistant coach has been the assistant coach has been lobbed out to do the press, and that only happens when it's been a pretty woeful day. So it's going to take a bit of recovering from this, because it's hard to find the real positive out of today and going in tomorrow. Yes, I think if Brookie and Ruti were there, we were going, they got 454 run partnership in Multan. There's hope. But Stokes was blocking away at the end, and Will Jacks looked fantastic in the last 20 minutes. He played it brilliantly. But realistically, do I genuinely believe they can go and both get 120 each and we bowl Australia out? In my absolutely wildest dreams, I hope it does happen, but I think you'd have to be super positive to find anything out of today that makes you smile as an England fan.
Yeah, no doubt. And it is an ultra positive changing room. And McCullum, Jeetan Patel, Trescothick will be doing their best to keep those boys and spirits up. But you know what it's like. It's very difficult. And you have to have that period of honesty, don't you? And you get back to your room tonight on your own, and you will feel a bit deflated and frustrated, as all the England fans will. And like you said, it is because of that hope. And this was the time it was going to be different. The last tour we went on to Australia, you arrive with great hopes, but then sort of very quickly it felt like, here we go again. And I'm sure
after the first ball last time, to be honest. Yeah.
Whereas this time it was like, right, we're in, and go to Perth, we were like, God, we're going to go and win this test match. So yeah, this feels tough, but it's important as a group to try and really stick together and get around your teammates. And because you do feel in Australia, a very long way away from home. We've mentioned you, unlike any other country you really tour, you're up against everyone. You get back to the hotel tonight and someone, while you're waiting for the lift, tells you what a tough day it was. Probably key doesn't work as you get to the room. You get back down there and get a new key, and they tell you what a crap day you've had as well. And you just can't really escape it in Australia, and it's just tough. It's all around you. The crowd will have been all over it, and you just feel that pressure building, and it takes all your energy to try and stay upbeat. And we spoke, I was going to say a bit yesterday about sometimes you have to be a bit of an actor. I know you said on the Willow Talk podcast about acting when you play cricket. And I think that's something that the England boys will have to tap into a bit. Just even if you don't feel it, and we all know looking around that dressing room, you might have to say, I feel awful, lads, that was a tough day, but let's get out there and stick our chest out and just try and change that mentality. And it might not work out in this test match. You do need a minor miracle to win this one from here, but there's still 3 test matches to go, and you don't want this to sort of spiral away. And you've got to find, talk about acting. You're going to say about Brad Haddin made some good points about as a wicket keeper when you drop a catch. You feel awful, but you might have to just put on a show and go and get the ball and shout for the ball from the cover fielders and sort of run around a bit and just look like, the drop catch hasn't as affected you as much. And I think days like today, for everybody, it's like, yes, you're feeling it, but you might need an hour or so to feel sorry for yourself and down. And then you've got to try and find something again. This is what test matches really do for everyone. There's a huge test of resilience. And that is one thing, having played 130 odd tests, something like that, or 150. I don't know how many you ended up on, but you must have a huge amount of resilience to keep going in this game. It's not just all technical and tactical.
What's the old saying, Jose? That's why they call it test cricket.
Yeah, if it was easy cricket, everyone would be doing it. But that is tough. One thing the guys were talking about, Stephen Finn and Jason Gillespie actually were talking about bowlers hitting length. And how something as a batter I find interesting. They're talking about how you hit that fuller length with an intensity or energy on the ball. It seems easier to do it from a little bit further back of a length. But Scott Boland, I thought, looked like he gets great energy on the ball from that ball that passes the stumps around Bale High. And it's like Jason Gillespie talked about, he tells bowlers to try and make a divot in the pitch and hit the pitch like that. I just wondered if you could give the viewers and our listeners a bit of a sense of that, hitting the pitch on that fuller, what would it be, 6 meter length, but not being floaty.
Yeah, it's quite a difficult skill to do that, and that's why Scott Boland's having so much success. When bowlers do snap into length, when it's full of a length, it actually, I don't know how you felt when you were facing it, feels like it speeds up off the pitch somehow. I think of a bowler, probably the best bowler I played out that did that was Andre Adams at Nottinghamshire, New Zealander, who could hit a full of a length. I think it would zip off the pitch. And for me, that's why I became a wobble seam bowler, because I felt like if I tried to swing the ball up there, I floated it up there to give it a chance. Whereas if I wobbled the ball, I felt like I could hit the pitch still as hard as I could on a full of a length and trust that I was still hitting the pitch rather than expecting the ball to move in the air and wanting the ball to move off the pitch. And I think that divot mindset is quite a good one. And you find your way into that length. How I would look at it, I wanted my first 10 balls in a test match to almost be a dot ball. Yeah, if it's a wicket, great. But I didn't want to get driven down the ground. I wanted to sort of hit the pitch, get through my action, check I'm sort of comfortable, check my feet are landing well, and work my way up to that fuller length where I know I'm hitting the pitch. And Boland's 36 years old. He's experienced. He's done it in Shield cricket. He's been around. He knows what he's doing, and he can come on and find a length really quickly. Atkinson, Cass, Archer. I know Archer's older, but they're still very much learning their trade in Test match cricket. And I thought they all looked quite samey, and they definitely erred on the shorter side of bowling, which all the Australians around this ground know, having watched Test cricket, played so much Test cricket here at the Gabba, know that you have to try and get that full of a length. Actually, that back of a length is so easy for batters. And look at England's wickets. Duckett it was unlucky, it rolled along the ground, but it was slightly full of a length. Pope, Crawley driving at the ball, chipped it back in the air. Root was unlucky in a sense that it was just a mistaken full ball that he managed to nick. Brooke coming forward, nicks the ball. Jamie Smith coming forward, nicks the ball. So if I look at a pitch map of the England dismissals in this evening session here, 6 wickets, you look at how England bowled and a pitch map of all the balls that England would have bowled, I bet it's a tiny percentage of where the Australians got their wickets from this evening to where the England bowlers bowled.
Yeah, it did absolutely. It felt very noticeable on TV watching, especially even when the keeper's up and you sort of feel trapped on the crease and the bowlers are still hitting that length that's challenging the stumps, it's challenging your outside edge, and it's bringing in bowled an LBW as well. And let's just touch on the England batting. Obviously, not as good as we would have hoped and the boys would have hoped. But what reasons may that be? And also, I just wonder about how difficult it is when you're in that much of a deficit to strike the balance between scoring runs, because you need to score runs to bring that down, but also occupying the crease. And I know people will be frustrated about some of the shots, but you still need to score runs in that situation. And I suppose that just is the art of batting, isn't it? Managing risk and being able to score runs, but you can't just completely go into your shell, because that brings you as the bowling group. That's exactly what you want as well, being 140 behind or whatever it is, and just trying to occupy the crease. You feel like you're just right in the game, and it's a matter of time there as a bowling group, don't you?
Yeah, and Australia are always aware of that. So yes, they had a big lead, but they still had deep square leg and deep point at times. And you think, why are they there? And that's because then, if their bowlers do miss, England pick up 1 instead of 4, and you stay in a deficit for so much time. Why did England fall in a heap? They were and it was baking hot in Brisbane today, baking hot. So they were in the field from 2 p.m. through till virtually night time, bowling, having bowled 73 overs yesterday. So they were bowling tired, and then they're coming in having to back it up. So their minds are tired. This is not me making excuses, by the way. I'm just trying to find reasons as to why that you fall in a heap like that. You've got Duckett and Crawley waiting. You get 8 down. You get Alex Carey out. Boland walks the crease. You're now thinking, okay, as an opening batter, I'm switching on here. I could be batting in 15 minutes with a 10-minute break. So I need to start preparing myself, what I'm doing mentally, go through my processes. Where am I at? What's the pitch going to be doing at this particular time? They're going back for 2 hours. So you're then on for 2 hours, processing what's going on. By the time you actually come to bat, you're probably a little bit tired, but they did brilliantly for 6 overs, 43 runs. Break comes, and when they were walking off for that break, the sort of 20-minute break, I thought, they don't need this right now. They've just got going. The Aussies didn't bowl great. Now Aussies will come off, reassess, and England batters come back into an inside change room, and then they're going to have to come back out and get themselves back in, and they didn't manage to do that. Duckett got one that rolled along the floor, can't do anything about it, but it's good bowling because he's bringing the stumps into play. And Pope and Crawley, they were going so nicely. Popey maybe 20, 30, whatever. Crawley 40 odd. And they were 127k, so we're talking, what is that, 78 miles an hour, keeper up, half volleys really, that got chipped back to the bowler, 2 caught and bowls. And it's like catching practice. It was honestly so deflating. They're the sort of dismissals that everyone in the change room just goes, oh God, what was that? And that becomes quite infectious at times. And that was a gift. They were gift. They were caught and bowls with wrapped in birthday wrapping. You know, it was birthday paper. It was just a freebie, 2 freebies in a row, and then suddenly Root and Brooke are in, and it's nipping around. The Aussies are up. You know, the Gabba crowd's whacking the seats, and it's all intense. And then you go from there. So yeah, I'm not saying England were massively in the game when Crawley and Pope got out, but gosh, there were ways to hand momentum back to Australia.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's finish on a bit of a lighter note. You mentioned the crowd. It's been a great crowd. Obviously, all these matches are well supported. I think I saw the full cast of Star Wars there today. And I think you got serenaded across the ground with Beefy. Is that correct?
Well, serenade, describe what you would suggest serenaded means.
I'd say with some quite nice words, but were they a bit more choice than that?
I would lean on serenaded being polite and nice.
I thought you'd won them over by now.
There was definitely the Broadies of Wanker came out, and as they started singing that, I smiled and looked up, and there was 12 stormtroopers, all with their middle fingers up at me, and I thought, yeah, fair enough. But actually, they've been lovely.
That's quite endearing in Australia, though, isn't it?
They've been lovely. It's been great. I've been getting on. You know, I've been loving seeing the fans. It's all a joke. You don't necessarily see that as a player because you're concentrating on the game. But I spend a lot of time around the crowd now, doing the punditry stuff, hanging about, and they're great fun. You know, and to be fair to them, they're having a great time. I went out at the tea break yesterday, and to describe the level of beer intake, I had about maybe like 10 selfies, and at least half of them were facing the wrong way and no one noticed.
So they've got all day at it as well for a day-night test. I mean, it's an early start, isn't it?
Or early start, and there's some stamina involved in that. But yeah, serenading, I would say, would be quite a polite way, but it was enjoyable.
Let's not look ahead to tomorrow just yet, Broady. We'll tune back into Stokes and Jack's hundreds and England right back in it.
Cool. Imagine it, Jose. Imagine it. That's what they'll be saying in the change room. Not out the game. Stokes, Jacks, both quality players. Can they both get hundreds and see where we end up? But yeah, let's just that's a little bit of positive. We're called for the love of cricket. We've got to find a bit of love out there, haven't we?
We have, absolutely. Another day that will go down in Ashes folklore. So we will see you then tomorrow.